3, 2, 1, end of test. King with a go.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and we are headed down what could have been lane with a lot of these aircraft that we've been talking about recently, and today is no different. We're talking about the AE-280, arguably the first true jet fighter, and I will explain to you why. But first, we've gone away from bonnet hats to fish helmets.
Something's wrong with you. Really.
The best way I can describe it. That's it? Okay, well, we're going to give this to the kids. This is the deal with the staff. This one actually is kind of clever. You got to give it that.
Bad toss.
And I'm going to pick up the first operational jet fighter, and there is a difference. I'll go ahead and throw up a plan view on this 262. Greg and Post can throw up a plan view of the 280. Now, interestingly enough, sometimes now there were problems with this airplane, and there are always problems when things don't happen, right? So that's how it kind of works out. First flight, Jason, I'm going to cook your noodle on this. The first flight on this was in 1940, so way ahead of its time. It was a Robert Lesueur design and the Hans von Ohan turbine design. Originally, the engine for the 280 was the HES-8, and then there was a BMW engine that was slated, and then eventually they went with the Junkers engine later in 1943. The aircraft went through glide tests. It actually flew under its own power. It flew against an FW-190, was actually doing laps, and I think, if I remember correctly, the idea was to do 4 laps in the same time, and the 280 did the 4, and the FW-190 could only do 3 in the same time. So there was clearly a huge speed advantage. Now, the aircraft had tricycle landing gear, which at the time, if you remember, the 262 was a tail dragger at one point, and the 280 actually had tricycle landing gear, and could have been a better aircraft with better handling, but it ran into a whole bunch of challenges. Initially, the Rijksministerie, the Air Ministry, had no interest in the airplane back in the early 1940s. They just didn't see any interest in it. Once the war started and they realized that they needed technical advantage, then they started to get interest, and that kind of petered out in 1943. Now, a lot of times, production on these airplanes can on in favor or not. And Messerschmitt at this time was much more in favor than Heinkel. And you can argue with me if you want in the comments, but Messerschmitt, ultimately, the reason the 262 went forward, and there were some better design issues, but part of it was that Heinkel did not have the ear of the Air Ministry at that time and managed to get the 262 moving faster. Now, German planning and diversified manufacturing and what they did, squandering their resources, it's all well documented. That hampered ultimately the fielding of any of these aircraft because they just couldn't consolidate under one type. They were chasing all kinds of, we've talked about before, these Wunderweapons, and that is going to bring me to my break. And I want to talk about the Allied pilots that had to face these aircraft, because the reality of the situation was that in a P-51 or a P-40 or a P-38 at that time, you were woefully at a disadvantage. Germans had a definite speed advantage, and the big thing about them was that they had realized the weapon they had, but they could not concentrate it. But you had these Allied fighters that were going up there doing whatever they could, and they developed tactics like catching the jets when they were coming into land, or they take off or catch them on the ground, period. They fought them in the air, and we've talked about that both with Colin in a Mosquito, and we talked about our honorees last year, or Joe Peterbers in a P-51 fighting these airplanes, and they managed to score kills on them, to actually win aerial victories. But if the Germans had fielded any of these aircraft in numbers, it would have been another story, and that is where you have to recognize the bravery of the American pilots. And that's who I want to salute today, those guys that went down on the deck or that took on this unknown technology and lived to tell the tale. Colin tells a great story, the Mosquito pilot, where apparently they had a radar receiver in the cockpit, and he could tell when the 262, which was a night fighter version, would paint him with his radar, and he would jank away. And he just basically realized he took the guy down low and ran him out of gas, and that's how he got away. But it was Allied seasoned pilots and ingenuity that carried the day. And those are the guys I want to salute. And we're going to do that today with a Boilan Bottling Diet Cream, 0 calories. Wow, you've never done this to me before, Jason. I'm shocked. 0 calories. Does it have it's too good to be true. Does it have a California redemption? It does. This is interesting. And I think it has don't need this. I will show my brawn. It has a twist top too. Wow, Jason. So to all of these highly experienced Allied pilots that were fighting this new technology, I salute you.
By drinking a Boilan soda, you are supporting one of America's oldest bottling companies and savoring an authentic and comforting treat enjoyed by many for over a century.
Wow, that's actually pretty good. What'd you do? You're slipping. You're slipping, Jason. I may actually take this one back to my office after we're done here. Second sip for those brave Allied pilots. Now, the tail was over on the 280 right up in about 1943. They had built 9 of them. They stopped production. To my knowledge, none of these aircraft or any of the test beds have survived. By 1943, the die was cast on the jet fighter program. As I said, Messerschmitt was in much better stead and was going to move forward. Ultimately, Hitler completely screwed it up, so it really didn't matter. Thank goodness for the Allies, or it would have had higher losses. And the HE-280 became a kind of a footnote in history. Now, talking about squandering resources and chasing things, Heinkel would come back with the HE-162, I believe the People's Fighter, the Volksfighter, and they, with the HE-162 that they produced, they did see some redemption because they were producing those in, fairly large quantities at the end of the war, but the airplane was a death trap. And by that time, the Germans, as we just did with the Nakajima that we talked about, which was the one-way bomb, the kamikaze, the Germans were trying to build aircraft out of non-strategic materials and were woefully understaffed, undergunned, and the war was inevitable. The end of the war was inevitable. And that is the story of the 280. I would have liked to have seen one actually fly. I think, there's some airplanes we talk about here that wouldn't it be cool, and we get the simulations, we do the simulations with some of the airplanes, and Greg does a great job at Post, but man, it would be cool to actually see some of these airplanes in the air, but it's just not meant to be. Now, if you are sitting at home thinking about airplanes, this is a puzzle for you. This is a Lollapalooza of airplanes. There's a billion of them in there, and all kinds of Axis and American aircraft, and you can build this. It is suitable for framing, so click on that link. Jason will happily send one out to you. We can't do all this great stuff with all the airplanes here at the Air Museum without your contribution. So there's a contribution link down in the descriptions below here. Go ahead and click on that link. Send us a few bucks. We can certainly use it. If you're teaching the kiddos at home, the education guides are included in the description as well. They are free. Teach an entire semester or just one lesson. There's all kinds of stuff in there, and we encourage you to download that at no charge. If you came across us on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, give us a like. A subscription on YouTube we can certainly use, and your comments, we do pick up aircraft and do descriptions based on your comments, or you have questions, and we are happy to answer them. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
3, 2, 1, end of test. King with a go.
Rise to the blessed day, all my fears have gone away. I guess this means I'm here to stay. Yeah, I'm ready to fly, ready to fly. Wasn't long ago I shook at the thought of being hooked. But ever since I wrote my book, I'm ready to fly, ready to fly.
Come along and join us, we can plug you in the simulator. We'll teach you how to dance and be the perfect imitator. We'll give away all your music to the operator. We were born with a light to shine, and we can do it in our lifetime. And then we get the balance right. Oh, we're riding on the satellite.
Satellite.